Madam Chair Kruger, appreciate the opportunity. Tom Ungier, New York State Troopers PBA President. It's my 11th time addressing this body, and I appreciate it. Every year I'm here asking for more equipment, more manpower, and this year is no different, more vehicles. Really hit on the crux of it. I'm not going to debate the changes that took place with bail discovery, but how it impacts my members. I'm going to disagree with my superintendent who testified earlier that he did not see a change. It definitely takes my people off the road. What used to be a simple arrest, say a DWI that took an hour administratively, now takes 4 hours. Again, there is some built-in learning curve, but not an additional 3 hours. So once you take my people off the road for that additional time, there's not troopers out there patrolling, and I represent the uniformed people out there making arrests and that you see on the roadways. So every trooper that makes an arrest and is off the road, that's one less trooper that's patrolling the communities, the roadways in New York State. And as such, I'm requesting an additional bump in manpower. Usually I'm asking for 500 additional troopers for attrition and what have you. I'm asking for an additional 100 more on top of that. That on top of other funding, I would hope that there's funding built in. I know that Senator Kruger said with the marijuana legislation, we do need the DREs. I have a little over 100, 101, I believe, trained DREs in the state. My superintendent testified he'd like to see 300. I'd actually like to up that to 400, but he's going in the right direction, which I do appreciate. And also what he didn't state, that any cannabis dog, a scented dog that detects cannabis will have to be retired. So there's 40-some dogs that have to be retired. Don't worry, they get to go home with the dog handler and for the rest of their lives. But those dogs, that's another $350,000 that will have to come up to replace those dogs and for training. Always need cars. I heard that before. A superintendent said, you know, the cars that are over 125,000 miles, about 5%, but that's the whole pool. My patrol cars, it's about 25% are over 125,000 miles. And those are the cars that are driven 0 to 100, back down to 0 all day long. A lot of wear and tear. And that's going to be summing it up real quick, and I'll be open for questions, I guess, afterwards.
Madam Chair, thank you for allowing me to testify tonight. Again, just to ditto Tom's testimony, of course, the BCI depends on the amount of members that are in the troopers. Our bureau men come out of the troopers' ranks. This year, we're looking to assist with the discovery laws that have newly been implemented. Division has come up with an idea of possibly putting investigators in each zone of each troop to assist in getting the discovery material to the local DAs within timely manner to make the flow of the information more fluid. So it's hoping that we can add approximately 35 investigators throughout the state just to assist with discovery information getting to the DAs. On top of that, we also want to become a little more aggressive with fishing for the evils on the internet, ones that are going after the children's, specifically child crimes. The computer crimes unit hasn't grown in a while, and they're looking to add an additional 19 members in that unit, specifically to start luring in the people that are out there that are doing these horrible crimes to our children. Again, with attrition, we try to keep up with the members that are retiring. You know, Tom comes every year asking for classes of 500. The governor has granted us 250 pretty regularly. Right off the bat, we lose 10% before graduation even comes. So, you know, I would ask the legislature to consider adding an extra 10 before the class starts to adjust for that 10% decrease so that we do get an honest and true 250. And the vehicles, it has progressed. I thank you for paying attention to us. Still needs attention, and but I do appreciate you allocating the monies for our fleet to improve, because there were lean times at the beginning of the decade where you know, the fleet got into that dire state that it was in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman Kroger, Chairwoman Weinstein, and members of the legislature. My name is Michael Powers, and I'm the president of NYSCOBA, the Correctional Officers PBA. I have 3 issues I'd like to discuss real quick here, one being the prison closures, 2, the double bunking within our correctional facilities, and some staffing and resource and training curriculums that we're looking at. First and foremost, we take great exception to the governor's proposal to close more prisons. He's looking to do it within a mere 90 days. Many of the legislators here may recall legislation that passed some time ago through us, with your assistance, allowed for a 1-year closure bill to be put in place. That allows, as a closure, if a closure were to occur, that gives us the opportunity, and my members, the opportunity to make the proper adjustments with their families, their communities, their schools, their children, and whatnot as we go forward. You see that with these prison closures that are coming, one of the biggest issues that we have regarding that boils down into the double bunking. We have 10,500 empty beds amongst the state correctional facilities. 6,265 of those beds are top racks, or top bunks. Bring those bunks down, give our staff a better opportunity to operate in a safer environment, supervising less inmates, allowing the disbursement inmates throughout the system, and therefore there would be no need for closure of any facility. You'll still have empty beds available to be able to have in emergency circumstances, and that would allow for a smoother transition, not only for the staff that work it, the hardworking members of NYSCOBA, and the civilian staff that work within it, but also amongst the inmate population. We have a large rise in violence in our facility. The acting commissioner spoke of it earlier. Unfortunately, with a smaller inmate population, which he mentioned, 3,200 we lost in the last year. We had 1,033 assaults on staff last year. 1,215 inmate assaults on staff. Close to 4,000 cases of contraband coming into our facilities. Many issues were talked about up here, the secure vendor program, the double bunking issue, a lot of the safety concerns that we have, the rise in violence in our facilities. All these topics are very, very serious topics that need to be looked at and addressed. We understand there may be legislation that's looking to investigate the rise in violence in our facilities. We support that legislation. We want to work with the legislature to see what is the cause of this. Is it drug related? Is it contraband related? Is it territorial related? I apologize. So with the prison population may be shrinking, but the concentration of dangerous inmates within the population is increasing. In spite of the changes, the inmate population, the policy of double bunking in a medium security facility is not warranted anymore. With the changes from the NYCLU settlement and the SHU regulations of last year, with the legislature passed along with the governor, with those, everything is being relayed back into the general population. The need to bring down the double bunking to stop the inhumane practicing of putting 2 grown adults through the rehabilitation process kind of circumvents the rehabilitation process when you're putting 2 grown adults into the size of a space smaller than a parking space. That's the reality. Take that away, allow the disbursement, the true rehabilitation process to take place to bring about the changes that are necessary to bring about the rehabilitation process, to create a better environment. I'm confident that if the double bunks and the double bunking policy were to come down and be eliminated, that may decrease some of the violence and contraband coming into our facilities. It just creates for a dangerous environment. Resources, staffing, and training. I've spoke with the chair of the Senate Committee on Crime and Corrections, Senator Sepulveda. We spoke about training in one of his meetings. He supports additional training. I, as a 30-year employee of the Department of Corrections, receive 40 hours of annual training. I've been receiving that training since 1990. The department's changed vastly in the last 30 years. There's more to do. Our resources are tapped. We don't have the staff. We don't have the training, and we are in dire need of it. In 2014, the department entered into a memorandum of understanding for staffing reviews. We were allotted a certain amount of staffing to be adhered to. And in 2017, I am still awaiting 192 security items for our correctional facilities. Now he
Thank
wants to
you.
shutter prisons.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Hello, Madam Chairwoman Kruger and Weinstein, and members of the Public Protection Committee. My name is Manuel Villar. I'm a 37-year veteran, New York State Park Police Sergeant, and founding president of the Police Benevolent Association of New York State. New York State parks, by their very nature, are geographically challenging and beautiful places. They're also very dangerous places because of those geographic challenges. Our police officers perform multiple duties that aren't routine on a daily patrol activity. We receive extensive training, similar to that of the state police, and then afterwards we receive specialized training from swift water rescue to high-angle rope rescues. The PBA has current legislation to provide for a complete and full merger with the Division of State Police. It's Senate Bill 3676 and Assembly Bill 2736. And to that point, the governor on December 3rd transferred command and operational control of the park police activities to the Division of State Police. Unfortunately, the similarities to the legislation sponsored and supported by members of this legislature end there. The governor's takeover plan presented to the PBA is different in the sense that it's just considerably more complicated than just simply changing the age requirements. There's pension liability issues for our members, as well as issues of our serious questions that our members have about the actual process that's to be implemented. We believe that any disenfranchisement of our members that would potentially lead to a layoff of park police officers, it's not fair and just for people that have dedicated their careers and lives to protecting the public and the people of the state of New York. They have families, they have mortgages, they have kids. They're hard-working, dedicated individuals, just like everybody here on this table. Yeah, I just, it's from the heart. We're asking the legislature to reject the governor's proposal in the budget and to enact a full and complete merger and takeover as envisioned in our legislation, which is similar to the 1979 Parkway Police merger, the 1997 Capitol Police merger, and as well as a recommendation by the Division of State Police in 2003. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Michael. And I'm handing it to the Assembly. Senate.
We have a number of members.
Thank you.
Assemblyman Weprin.
Thank you. Oh, wait,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Last but not least.
please
No,
go
I
ahead.
apologize.
That's okay, that's okay.
We had 4 listed, but 5 of you came down, so you get your 3 minutes. Introduce yourself, please.
Thank you so much. Madam Chairwoman, distinguished panel, my name is Troy Copain. I represent the Park Police Officers Association of the PBA. I'm here basically to speak on behalf of our members. You have my written testimony, but I just want the members of the panel and the legislature to understand, since December 3rd, my members have been basically frustrated, full of anxiety, full of a lot of questions and uncertainty based on the governor's memo that was put out. When you say that we're being taken over operationally and administratively, we've been through that before. Again, in 1998 to 2003, the state police took us over. I'm a product of that takeover. I started in 2000. So my training, my hiring standards, every class that I was taught in my academy was taught by a trooper, other than our outdoor recreational stuff, meaning the rope rescue, the ATV, the boats, and so forth. I've gone through the background process. All of our members have gone through that background process. We go to the state police to get polygraphed. We take the psychological. Every time the state police changes equipment, we change our equipment. When they change their policies, we change our policies. We've been a mirror image of them since Major Ellis of the State Police was our Director of Law Enforcement and took us over for those 5 years. So in 2003, when the state gave us back to OPR, they recommended 2 things. One was a full and complete merger. The second was, if OPR was going to keep us, continue down that path that they established. Start an IAB division, a detective division, a chain of command, and we've done all of those things. So now this announcement comes out and it says, we're being taken over again. But now there's a different path for us. It's, well, if you want to become one of us, you have to now go through all of these processes all over again. So for my 20 years as a state police officer under Parks, I now have to be treated like I'm a new hire. I have to take a poly, a background, a psych, an age-adjusted medical and physical. I have to go through a possible residential academy once again, which I already did 6 months, a 6-month academy 20 years ago, for another 5 to 12 weeks. I understand there's policy changes that we may have to get updated on and a few different things here and there. But to go through that entire process again, to me is disrespectful for my 20 years of law enforcement service. So my members are frustrated because not knowing what's going to happen to us if we don't go through this subjective process that they may put us through, we don't know if the Park Police are going to remain. Even the superintendent said today, when he was asked, well, what happens to the remaining Park Police officers? He said he doesn't know. So that means that we could be sent anywhere across the state, we could be eliminated, we could lose our law enforcement jobs that we raised our hands and said we swore an oath to the residents and the visitors of the state of New York. It's unacceptable to us. All we're asking for is let us know what this is about. There are some of my members that want to transition over. The younger guys are chomping at the bit. But you know what? There's some of us that are established in our homes and our families and where we've worked for 10, 15, 20 years. And we're saying, if we can't all go over, then what's going to happen to us? And what are some of the securities that they're offering us that we'll be able to finish out our careers in the places that we live and where we work? And we're not getting those answers at all.
Thank you.
So we're here to obviously ask for your assistance and support in us getting those answers, or support our merger bill and let us all go over and continue doing what we've sworn an oath to do.
Thank you. Assembly.
Now we go to Assemblyman Weprin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, for waiting. I know it's been a long day. I've been here since 9:30 myself, so I have a couple of questions for Mr. Powers, President Powers. I enjoy a good working relationship with your union. As you know, we've been working on a number of issues. One thing, we don't agree on every issue, but you always have my ear, and I always listen to what you propose, and hopefully we can agree on more issues than disagree. I am going to make a push to end double bunking this year, especially in light of the 2 closures last year and potentially anticipated closings this year. I think it makes more of a need to end double bunking once and for all, and I think it's something that's good for the incarcerated individuals as well as the correction officers. So I think it's a win-win. I know there was some pushback last year, but I'm hoping to put it on an agenda of my committee and get it done this year. And I hope you'll actively support us on that. And one thing I want to ask you, I know you mentioned the contraband issue and the safety issue. It was a 2-year process, but we passed a bill for local jails. It's particularly important to Rikers Island to get body scanners that were used as opposed to the magnetometers that they used to use at Rikers Island. And that's eliminated a lot of contraband, a lot of ceramic weapons that have come in that weren't detected by the magnetometer. Do you think it makes sense to have some of these body scanners in state facilities?
Absolutely. We encourage more technology, and not necessarily some of the the same technology that, you know, more of the technology that we already have. But our brothers and sisters down in the New York City Department of Corrections have the body scanners, and they're quite effective. I know that they're costly. I know that, and we have a large state agency here, but, you know, you made a very good point regarding the ceramic-type weapons that are coming into our system quite frequently. We're seizing them quite often, and these body scanners prevent a lot of contraband from coming in and out of the facilities, along with the secure vendor package program would be a great program to have as well.
Okay,
You know.
when Commissioner Nucci was here this morning, I think it was this morning, yeah, it seems like a long time ago, we asked him about the double bunking, and he seemed to say that there were very few double bunkings left at this point. And you seem to have indicated there are more. Can you give us an accurate count of which facilities in particular have double bunking and how many, you know, double bunking, how much double bunking is there?
They primarily exist in our medium correctional facilities. We have some in the max, as the acting commissioner testified to, but the legislation, the very legislation you're speaking of, speaks more towards the dormitory type settings of our medium correctional facilities. So I would, you know, I mean, I can get you the total number of top beds, but you know, well, actually 6,265. So that was the number I gave you early. So no, that's not accurate either. I apologize. But
Sounded good.
That's the. I can get you that number. But you know, I mean, we differ on that. Obviously, you know, he doesn't think that it'll have much of an impact with a closure. But you know, we're in the trenches. We're the ones doing the grunt work, and we're the ones that are seeing it.
My time is up.
Thank-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblyman Palmisano.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. I just first wanted to say thank you to you and all your members for what you do to keep us safe in the state. So first, thank you very much. For the purposes of my 3 minutes, I really want to direct my comments to Mr. Powers and Scoba. The acting commissioner was here earlier, and a lot of questions came up, particularly around the secure vendor program, use of canines. And I was made aware earlier about a recent examples of 3 facilities just today getting suspicious packages, 10 getting contraband in the past week. And it also came up about, the concern I have and a lot of our members have is, are you being provided the necessary equipment for your members to be safe, protected while doing their job? Because I know the issue with the fentanyl up north, where 11 individuals went to the hospital, and I keep hearing about these nitrile gloves, and that was brought up, and the commissioner said, yes, they are provided to your members. But I've also heard that while they're provided in restricted areas, are they readily available? Because you deal with cell searches and pat-downs. Are these gloves readily available throughout for all your members, or are they restricted areas? That was one question I wanted to get to.
They're primarily in the medical departments and some of the, in the package rooms and in the mail rooms. Some of the contraband coming in, the ones that you mentioned earlier regarding the 3 today at 3 correctional facilities had suspicious mail packages coming in that were deemed to be saturated with a chemical. And sometimes we worry about it being fentanyl or some type of Suboxone or synthetic drug of some sort. But yeah, we have asked for them. We continually ask for them. We want all of our staff in the field to have access to that equipment and to other equipment as well. But the nitrile gloves are something that we've been driving home for some time, yes.
Another question I want to get to, I know there's going to be a transfer of youth offenders going to OCFS. And based on your experience and what you've already encountered, is OCFS readily going to be available to handle this situation without the presence of corrections officers? Or what can they expect moving forward with this change and without corrections officers in these facilities with these youth offenders coming to OCFS?
I can speak from our experiences with the adolescent offender program, but I can't speak for OCFS. I'm not familiar with their procedures or anything of that nature, so I don't want to get into that. But they'll have their hands full.
Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to ask you is just because with the time left, I mean, I and a number of my colleagues want to make sure your members can be safe doing your jobs. If there are 3 things you would say, give us to help us, if you give us these 3 things, that would help us protect us so we can do our job safely and make it a better environment for our members to work in. What would be those 2 or 3 things if there's just saying it out loud here to everybody?
Staffing, without question. We're owed staffing from 2017 that we've yet to receive additional training, equipment, resources to protect our members in the field. You know, a lot of the technology that's coming forward, and obviously to bring down the double bunks and make it a more secure environment for us to be able to operate in.
Thank you again for what you and your members do for us.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll be
Thank-
sure to convey that, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblyman Riley?
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you coming and offering some testimony. I had a feeling I was going to hear something different. Regards to the state troopers with the discovery law, is there any way that we can, maybe you can provide me with some information, maybe some literature that went out from the actual organization, from the agency, surrounding training on, to the troops that are in the field? Secondly, I wanted to touch on the request for additional troopers for the academy. I'd keep my eye out for this request for the MTA, New York City Transit. I would not want them to relocate troopers just to the transit, because I could see that happening. It's pretty ironic that we're also talking about mergers of different departments, when in 1995, some of my colleagues that were in transit and housing in New York City called it a hostile takeover, when the New York City Police Department, which I was a member of, took over housing and transit. They are very delicate situations, and I truly appreciate them. So we want to make sure that we stay on top of that, and thank you for giving the information on that. Additionally, the 35 investigators just to support discovery. New York City Police Department is doing that right now with civilians, and it's costing them a fortune. And I think that's the missing point that I had in my earlier question to the superintendent was, I know there's dollars that are attached to this, and that's what we need to find out. So if you could maybe just share some information about specific training that may have taken place. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. We go to Assemblyman Blake.
Chris, good to see you. A few quick questions, just for clarity. Troy, can you just want to make sure I'm clear. So you said there's a December 3rd memo that there needed to be clarification around the takeover, and I'm just to make sure I'm understanding the impact of that memo and the actual naming of that memo.
I attached it with my testimony, so you should have that. It was basically sent from the governor's office, stating that the state police is now administratively and operationally taking control of the state park police. And then it goes to say towards the end of it that,
You need
I'm
to
sorry,
talk into the mic. There you go.
that, you know, some members may be able to transition over, others may remain with the park police until they age out, or other things become available. And that's, again, the unknown that we're still trying to find out, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you for that clarity. To President Powers, I just want to, I believe you shared that you are supportive of legislation to research the rise in violence.
Yes, sir.
And equally, when you're saying that there's a need for additional money for training, is there an approximate dollar figure?
I don't know. We can get you one.
You have a sense of
It's
even...
pretty outdated. It'd be costly.
I understand. You have a sense of what would be the particular type of training that is most needed that's not currently happening?
Well, it's pretty involved, sir. We've seen a lot of changes. You know, there's a lot of mental health issues within, within our correctional setting that need to be addressed. And as I mentioned, I receive 40 hours of annual training a year. And, you know, I've been receiving that since 1989. And, you know, the department's changed and there's much more need within the facilities that we need to be out in front of. And to cram that all into 40 hours, what I've had for 30 years, is not sufficient. We need that training, we need that time, we need those resources.
Absolutely.
To be able to effectively treat and do our jobs sufficiently.
Absolutely. And I want to say I appreciate the conversation around training. and can respect and acknowledge the urgency around that. I believe the legislation you're referencing is actually Senator Sepulveda's legislation, so definitely we'll want to work with him on that. And then President Quick, Chris, good to see you. Just again for clarity, I believe you said earlier, additional 35 persons for discovery and additional 19 individuals, I believe, for online. I just want to make sure I have clarity on those two elements.
That's correct. There's 10 troops in the state. Each troop is broken up into zones. We have approximately 33 zones, so figuring out approximately 35 investigators in a special detail that just addresses the discovery, getting that, acting as a liaison to the district attorney's offices. And then the additional 19 investigators, Division of State Police is looking to ramp up their computer crimes unit to be more proactive in, addressing the evils on the internet as far as child crimes.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you all.
Thank you, Assemblyman Ra.
Thank you all, gentlemen, for the work all the men and women in your respective organizations do each day. I just wanted to ask about, there's, one of the really tragic situations we've all seen over, recent months have been law enforcement suicides. And we understand, it's a very difficult job. And, for whatever reason, those individuals, made that really unfortunate choice. And I know there's a little bit of an appropriation in this budget proposal to try to address that, but what can we do as a legislature to provide adequate resources to address that problem, both in terms of funding and perhaps if there are, policy changes that need to be made to help assist your members and make sure that the supports are there when they need them?
The state police has been hit hard with, unfortunately, the suicides. We have seen a spike over the last decade. And I will say this administration, headed by Superintendent Corlett, they are addressing it. They are trying to, come up with, I don't want to say a solution, but help out there. Teamed with our employee assistance program, they are trying to donate or designate more resources in that direction. But as far as the legislature, we'd be open for any increased funding. I couldn't sit here and put a dollar amount on it, but it's something that we definitely, as cops, you're helping people all the time, but you seem to get in a position where you don't ask for help yourself. And trying to break through that wall is the big thing. And as a 27-year trooper, I don't have the answer to that. That's up to health professionals, mental health professionals, and what have you. But it all comes down to funding and having the resources in order to accomplish a better program.
We have seen similar as well. We've seen a significant rise in suicides with our members, and not only that, but just within the correctional settings as well. But obviously more. The more that you can give us to bring this about, to lower that rate or abolish that rate completely is, I don't think you could ask for, until you can eradicate that stigma and get rid of it completely. By all means, we'll accept as much as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Sepulveda.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening to all of you. It's just a question for Mr. Powers. First of all, I want to thank you for agreeing to meet with us a couple weeks ago, several weeks ago, and being willing to listen to all sides on the issues involving your members, correctional facilities, and things that we need. I don't know if you heard earlier, I asked questions about the services that should be provided by docs to the members for mental health services, both for them and training so that for them, so they can deal with people that are incarcerated in a better way. And they told me, the commissioner indicated that in fact there has been some of that, a lot of it, and that it has been successful. And some of my colleagues already asked you some of the questions that I wanted to ask you, but just two quick questions. I don't have a lot of time, but According to DOCS, previous closures have not resulted in any layoffs, but do require relocation by DOCS employees. What is the rate of attrition of staff after the closure? Are you aware of it, Mike?
What, the rate of attrition at what?
When you close can you hear me okay?
Yes. There's a bit of an echo here.
With the current closures of facilities, DOCS has indicated there have been no layoffs. But they do require relocation of the employees. What is the rate of attrition of staff after closure of these facilities? Are you aware of the numbers?
I would imagine it's a small number. It depends on who's eligible upon, you know, if they were to target a facility and have the facility close, some people may not be down for a relocation. They may have the time to opt out and retire. I can get you those numbers. I'd be happy to get you those numbers. You know, that's, I would think that it's too many, maybe, out of a facility staffed with 300 security, maybe 10. Maybe, just tight. And I'm just throwing that out there.
So it hasn't been a big issue with the membership about relocating once the facilities are closed?
It's a significant issue, without question. When a facility shutters and your family has to get uprooted and moved on, and, you know, that's one of the reasons why we came to the legislature years ago to have passed that one-year bill, that one-year closure notification bill, to allow the facility closure. You know, they don't announce them anymore. They don't give us what facility is going to close. They don't allow it, and before you know it, 90 days, and bang, you know, your life's turned upside down within a 30-day period. You know, that's not fair. It's not consistent. It's not a way to treat your employee, in my opinion. You know, but with that being said, you know, that's the burden that we have with that. So when a relocation, when a closure happens and staff have to relocate, sometimes it's significant, and depending on, you know, we're a seniority-based operation. So with that being said, it has a huge impact on not just the member and the community, excuse me, but the families, you know, the children in school, and you know, it could be an EMT in the community. You know, there's a huge impact on that, huge.
But has DOCS provided the kind of financial assistance needed by the membership to go to a new location?
Financial assistance? No,
Yes.
no.
So
No.
no level.
What we have is a working relationship. When we do, we try to work with them so that we can adequately find a place for somebody. We work with them to try and soften the blow for the membership. We don't condone it. We don't want to see the closure. We don't feel the closures are necessary. And then when that happens, you know, we work with the department through seniority and through reassignment lists and what's available to help relocate the staff. And if some can't get to a facility of choice by seniority, sometimes they're forced into a layoff.
So let's continue our discussion, see what we can do to alleviate
Absolutely.
the pain that members have to go through, even financial or otherwise. So we can continue our discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblyman Levine?
Free speech, but not easy speech. Couple of things. We've all heard throughout the day a lot of people speaking speeches that are written. You all spoke from the heart, and we heard you, and that's appreciated. And I think the people of the state of New York appreciate knowing that you and your members are there to watch out and protect everybody. So thank you. Thank you all, gentlemen. I just have one quick question for President Powers, and perhaps I misheard. But I think when you were describing some of the dangers inherent in correction work, you used these words: inmate on inmate assaults on officers. Did I hear you correctly?
Well, there are two different categories: inmate on inmate assault and inmate on staff assault.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that clarification.
Yep.
And thanks, gentlemen.
Okay? I think now we're done with you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for staying
Thank
with
you.
us
Thank
tonight. Appreciate it. All right.